My son's really enjoying Star Wars right now, and he finally got around to asking me if we could make a lightsaber. We started with this. It's a battery-powered lightsaber. It has this plastic blade, which, as you flick it, it extends into 3 sections. It's got 3 batteries inside and a button on the side, and it makes an awful noise. And it keeps making that awful noise until you turn it off. There we go. The main thing is, this is a set of parts, a starting point. The blade comes off, we can reuse that. And I got him to think about what he did and didn't like about the hilt here, the handle. I drew him a template, and he then drew out the design for his lightsaber hilt that he wanted. And I'm going to base this on an adafruit feather and prop wing. It has all the components that I wanted in a nice small package. I've got a little LiPo battery and a speaker. I had some fun with the on-off switch, but there's an on-off switch. Based on the fact I was using the adafruit components, I went to the adafruit tutorials on building a lightsaber with the feather and wing. And one of the things they have there is some CAD parts for a lightsaber hilt. It's a beautiful model. It has these incredible 3D printed screw threads. Again, I'll be stealing that for another project. If I compare it to the toy one, yeah, that's a good size for a child. So we need to make our own, something like the smaller one. So that's needed a number of hours of 3D modelling on my part. I've got all the parts here actually. The final part of this will be to give these parts a matte spray and then put some colour on them, maybe some rub and buff to give some highlights, glue them together with the components inside, and it should be ready for Henry to play with. I've done a number of coats of grey now. I've remasked it. I'm going to whack these ones, there's just a few of them, with a coat of silver now. So these parts had a few coats of primer to smooth the surface, and then some black and some silver sprayed on with various different masks, and they looked sort of pristine and shiny. And now what I'm doing is I'm weathering them with just some watered down black acrylic, which I'm rubbing on to make them look like they've, you know, picked up years of space dirt and been in various space battles. I tend to be a bit heavy-handed with this rub and buff, but when it goes on nicely like this, it's fairly convincing that it's scuffed up metal. Okay, so now in addition to the rub and buff and the black weathering, I've put a bit of green weathering on too, which makes it kind of look like at some point this has done battle with a green alien and got covered in goo, green goo, which has never quite come out of all the nooks and crannies. I think I'm at risk of over finishing this if I'm not careful, so I'm probably going to call it a day pretty soon. Right, here we are at final assembly. Well, I hope it's final assembly. First final assembly. We have coffee. We have all the bits I've been painting up, 3D printed parts which make the hilt. We have the blade we got off a cheap toy, and we have all the internal components. LiPo battery, 3.7 volt, 1100 milliamp hours. We have the Feather M4 Express with the prop wing on top, with these really cool connectors. Why have I not had these in my life until now? There's a little speaker. There's a 3-watt RGB LED, again, great little connector. We have a right angle USB, micro USB adapter here, which will hopefully allow me to poke a charging point and a programming point out the side of the hilt through a little hole, a little port I've left there. And we have the on-off switch and the colour changing potentiometer to fit. Easy as that, boss. Oh, there's some other little sundries as well. A bit of speaker mesh, keep the dust out. and a 3D printed part to keep this right angle adapter in place when a child is tugging on it and pushing cables in and out. Right, I don't really know which end to start on. I think I'm going to start with the speaker assembly, which is this and this, this and this. So it simply goes speaker through the hole, that's the pommel. So the connector allows me to put the LED in. Now I've finished painting it. There we go, so the LED goes in into a custom mount in there. There's an order of operations here, and I don't remember what it is. I think next is the switch. So I had to put the switch through a little keyway here so that I could get it in at all. Now I don't tighten that just yet because there's another piece that completes the keyway. But next is the battery section, if I recall. Is that right? Yeah. And this is circular on the outside, but it has an oval profile on the inside, which allows me to make the most use of the space for this battery. Now here's one problem. As soon as I connect the battery, the whole thing turns on, which is a bit inconvenient. So the first thing I need to connect is the switch. Okay, switch is connected, so now I can mess about with the battery. LED is connected. In between these two wires, has to be the right way round. Has to be that way round. Okay, so that's... So what do? Glue it or acetone and glue it? Peg number 1. Peg number 2. While that glue's drying, I'm going to put a dab of thread lock on the threads of the switch. And then on top of that, the bit that's proved the most fiddly during dry assembly has been this part. Right, we're just going to suck it up and do it. We're going to put glue on and everything and commit. Yeah, I think we're in. Now because I'm suspicious that connector's not going to stay connected, I'm going to wimp out and I'm not going to glue on this final section. Maybe if it works for a bit. Just tuck these speaker wires away. So I duplicated the screw threads from the toy on the inside of this top part, so paint notwithstanding, hopefully I can just screw this in. Okay, and then with a bit of luck right, I just took this inside, but my wife wasn't very impressed with it, so I brought it back out again. So you press the button and it wakes up. You can change the colour through the whole spectrum. I'm going to have a bit of green. Where's green? Oh. No, blue. So as it swings,
I've had great fun designing and making this. I'm hoping my daughter is going to want to start making hers now. When I get time, I'll share all the CAD parts on my GitHub, where you can also check out the various projects that I've worked from to make this one work. To make a more realistic lightsaber, we would have used NeoPixels rather than the LED and a solid poly blade. But what we've done here is use parts that we can recycle into other projects when we're done with this one. Thank you for watching and stay safe.